Pearl Play with Yvonne Mutui.
Good morning. How you doing? This is Pearl Radio 96.9. We are your home of fresh and classic hits. My name is Yvonne Mutui. I'm here for Pearl Play with Yvonne, your music companion. And I promised you I'd be having a good gentleman. His name is Fredrick Beuche coming in this morning. It's still morning. It's 11.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good.
You're looking dapper, man.
Yeah, thank you. Actually,
You're welcome.
I'm happy to be here.
You're happy to be. I'm happy to have you.
First time
as well.
I've been following Pal.
Oh yeah, you've been
from the
following
one
us.
You guys launched.
Ah,
Wish I was here.
interesting. You wish you were there on that day.
Yeah.
You'll be here for a first year anniversary, won't
I've
you?
interacted with, I think, your sister station in
Lulu?
Malindi.
Yes.
Lulu. Yeah, so it's been a good thing to follow up and see that we have an opportunity today.
Amazing. Karibu
Asante.
sana, Pal
Thank
Radio.
you so much.
You are an epilepsy activist.
Yes.
So passionate about it.
About it, yeah.
So much so that you walked all the way from Nairobi
Yeah.
to Mombasa, walking.
Eh.
First of all, you were not alone, were you?
Surprisingly, I was.
No, Fredrick, no.
It was a crazy idea, I think, at that point in time. And so nobody wanted. In fact, when I mentioned it, a group of doctors met and they were like, we need to do some health checks for you, including your mental status before you can do this. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so you did this on your own?
Yes.
Why?
Interestingly, I mean, the whole topic of epilepsy is so dear to me because I'm a caregiver of a sister who was diagnosed with epilepsy at the age of 2.
Oh, no.
How she ended up getting epilepsy is through suffering cerebral malaria.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically epilepsy is a condition that one gets it when you have a damage of the brain. And the brain can get some damage through various means. Either it's an accident or you are hard hit on your head by something and then the injury goes deeper to touching your brain. Or you have infectious diseases like cerebral malaria, meningitis that end up tampering with your brain and they leave you with a scar that might end up again developing epilepsy.
Wow.
But the most common one for children is birth complications. And that's why we really advocate for expectant mothers to give birth in hospitals because then that helps them to avoid complications that might end up damaging the brain of the child and end up getting epilepsy.
So your sister is epileptic at 2 years old?
At 2 years old. Actually, so 2 years after cerebral malaria was done, and then but it had already affected the brain. So 2 years later is when we started seeing some of these symptoms from epilepsy.
How was that for you?
You know, for me, epilepsy is also something that I have been hearing from people. It's something that I never
experienced at first hand.
Close, yes.
Yeah.
So experiencing that from my sister, you can imagine it also took us a little bit of time to even know and understand that this indeed is epilepsy.
Yes.
So we went to all those hospitals, consulted doctors, but we were not really getting, because we didn't want it to sink inside us that our sister is epileptic.
Yes.
So it took us a little bit of time as a family, and again being the firstborn in the family, there's that kind of responsibility that comes on you even if the parents are there to just see how the sister could get help. So I would say it was a very tough thing to encounter.
So of course all these things we talk about as myths and misconceptions, you've experienced them at first hand.
All of them.
All of them, and you'll be telling us about that in a short while.
Pearl Play with Yvonne Mutui.
I still am awed by you walking from Nairobi.
Yeah, from Nairobi.
From Nairobi to Mombasa, and another one you cycled from Nairobi to Arusha.
And climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. That was November last year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get into what you've been doing about epilepsy, your sister, gets epilepsy at 2 years old. You're trying to get into medication.
Yeah.
She's 14 years old now.
Now, yes.
Never been to school.
Yeah, it's been a challenge. We've really tried to get her to the normal schools. So fast forward to 2013, it's when I was able to, we were able actually to get an epilepsy specialist. They're called epileptologists. Surprisingly, there are only 2 in Kenya.
2.
One is a practicing epileptologist. The other one is a researcher at Cambridge Research Institute. So I just saw an interview on TV. So in 2012, I had to quit my job. I was working in a shipping agency company in Mombasa. But the situation had gotten worse. And my mom could not also keep up with the situation alone. You see, we'd leave, go to work, we come back in the evening, and then she has a fresh injury.
Is this the time she was having 20 minutes?
Yes, like she was having seizures after every 20 minutes.
My goodness. Yeah.
So the moment she's up, mom cannot do anything else. You just have to watch over her because you never know when the next seizure will strike. So it was really weighing down on her. I had to come back and tell her, I'll just have to help you take care of her. So it is during this time that one morning I see an interview. There was going to be the first epilepsy open day in Nairobi. The next day I was in the night bus. I came here in Nairobi and all the way to Uhuru Park. Lucky enough, there were so many people. I didn't come with my sister, so I had to wait on the line until I was able to meet this epileptologist. He was so moved. I think I was one of the people who had come from very far.
Yeah.
And so he decided to come all the way to Mombasa to diagnose my sister afresh and put her on medication.
My goodness.
He did exactly that, and 6 months later, there was a great improvement.
Amazing.
And that is what changed everything. By 2014, I decided I'm not going back to my shipping career. I began praying and asking God to give me direction. And that's where I went back to the university to study theology.
Amazing. Before we get into the misconceptions, all this while your sister was under medication, still is?
Yeah, she still is.
How expensive is that?
I think when we talk about the burden for epilepsy, access to medication is one of the things that we really try and see how we can make anti-epileptic drugs accessible and affordable to so many people. The other narrative about epilepsy is that it hits hard for people who are coming from a very poor background.
Okay.
That can be explained by also the factors that contribute to epilepsy, because one of it is, as I've said, birth complications.
Yes.
And you know, so many people who end up getting birth complications is those that opt to give birth either at home or using the traditional birth attendants, because they cannot afford the cost of either going to the hospital and pay for the service of delivery.
Yeah.
So most of them are hit hard by poverty. So you can imagine you are hit hard by poverty.
Yeah.
Epilepsy is one of the chronic diseases. You cannot survive without anti-epileptic drugs. And so you either have to let go some of the, luxury of even having 3 meals in a day, and either having 1 or 2, so that one of these persons can really get medication.
So what do you do to ensure that, some of them are getting access to medical care?
Well, at the moment, because when the whole story changed, I saw the change in my sister.
Yes.
And she has continued to be stable enough up till this time.
5 years now, free of convulsions.
Yeah, she's
Amazing.
14 and she has been seizure free now for 5 years.
Wow.
But it's been
really
a tough journey to walk. So I took that upon myself. I said, if there's a way at some point in life you get to discover your purpose through maybe some kind of difficult situation that you went through.
True.
So in that space of asking yourself, God, why did you have to give us a last-born sister with such a condition?
Yeah.
It came clear to me that maybe somebody needed to step up and create awareness across the country or across Africa. Never know.
Yeah.
So in 2018, actually, that burden was so huge in me that I decided to walk from Nairobi to Mombasa to create awareness about epilepsy. And surprisingly, that, sparked a conversation across the country, the media. See, it was a unique thing. So
yes,
people were asking like, ni fare hauna?
Ngoja, lakini hii safari. This journey is still on my. How long do you walk in a day before you stop for a rest?
When I started, I was doing a maximum of 35 to 40 kilometers in a day. So Nairobi to Mombasa is 482 kilometers.
Yes.
So
you did this in how many days?
For 12 days.
For 12 days.
Yes, for 12 days.
You covered 482 kilometers in 12 days.
In 12 days. So it makes stops and talk to people, talk to border guys, telling them if you carry a passenger, make sure they have a helmet, because if an accident happens, they get an injury of their head that can go deeper into their brain.
Amazing.
It was quite a conversation, but it was again tough. At the end of the day, 12 days later, I had to take 2 weeks to really heal up. I had blisters on my feet.
Can imagine.
But it was worth it. It sparkled a conversation that really brought epilepsy into the limelight.
Amazing. Now, I don't know if people put spoons in someone's mouth. Do you put a spoon in someone's mouth and they're having a convulsion? I don't know. You're going to tell us about that in a short while.
Pearl Play with Yvonne.
Joining me is a guy all the way from Malindi. Fredrick Beuche. You have a very interesting name. What does Beuche mean, by the way?
Wow. So that's a Mijikenda name. So, Be, like B-E, it's just a short form of saying the father of. Then Uchi, from the Duruma language, has a name of a beautiful baby girl. So basically, you are a father of
a beautiful baby girl.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, such a name. Interesting. Such an interesting name.
Yeah.
Now, you are doing such a good job with raising awareness, starting with, of course, the cycling from Nairobi to Arusha, the walking from Nairobi to Mombasa, because it's something you're very, very passionate about.
Yeah.
Now, this is things people see all the time. A friend of mine was telling me in the morning how she went to a wedding with a lady and the noise was too much in that place and she just started convulsing. Now people don't know what to do when someone starts convulsing, and that is why you get to hear things like put the spoon in their mouth, or some of them wanawachilia too.
Really?
So what to do?
The first aid for epilepsy, one should have an understanding that we have so many types of epilepsy. The seizure types are over 40, but they are grouped into 3. You have the partial, the absence, and you have the generalized seizure. So the first aid that we are going to share is for the generalized seizure, which is the most common one. Maybe so many people have heard about it.
Yes.
If you ask somebody what is epilepsy, they say ile ugonjwa ya kuanguka. So for that kind of a seizure, the first aid, you have 5 things that you're supposed to do and 3 things that you're not supposed to do.
5 things you're supposed to do. 3 things you're not.
Yeah.
Amazing.
We call them the first aid do's. So for the first aid do's, number 1, take for instance, it's in a classroom and then somebody gets a seizure and they fall down. The first thing you're supposed to do is to stay calm. You stay calm because you want to establish again what has made this person fall.
You have to establish the cause.
Because not all seizures can be described again as epileptic seizures.
True,
So you stay calm because you want to help this person. So you stay calm, and then when you establish that this is indeed a seizure, number 2, any dangerous thing around that person, you kind of like take it away. Remember, we are really trying to make sure.
Define dangerous in this case.
Anything that is sharp. In a case of a classroom, it could be desks. Outside there, it could be stones. And because a seizure doesn't choose where it will happen, it could be in a pool of water, on fire. So you have to get them out of that danger zone. It's something that you need to do.
So basically removing literally any object that's around them. Okay.
Whatever you think that can cause them an injury as they're having the seizure, you take it away. And then you look for something that is soft. It could be a pillow, it could be a sweater. In the presence of none of these, what you can do is you put your hands together like this and put them beneath their head.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're trying to do everything that you can to keep the head safe, because the more the injuries, the more the seizure might get even worse. So look for something soft, put beneath the head. Number 4, if they have very tight clothing, try and loosen them up.
Okay.
You want to give them an opportunity to have a free circulation of air. And then number 5, you roll them in what we call the recovery position. So for recovery position, you don't lay them on their stomach, on their back, but you lay them on their side.
Okay.
And this helps in the sense that some of them, when they're having that seizure, they have some kind of foam coming out of their mouth.
Yeah.
So if you lay them on their back,
they might choke on it.
Gets back into their mouth, and they might choke.
Yeah.
But if you put them on the side, they are able to, the foam easily comes out, and it's also a position that helps them to breathe in easily. Remember, a seizure happens as much as it's happening because there is no complete circulation of oxygen to the brain.
Yeah.
So it's a struggle. When you put them in a position that they can breathe in easily, even by the time the seizure is done, they can come back to their senses. And lastly, stay with them until they are fully recovered. The 3 things you're not supposed to do is do not restrain them when they are jerking. So jerking,
don't hold them.
Yes, when the seizure is happening, they throw their hands and their legs. And in some instances, you call a whole bunch of people to come in.
Because some places, people, when someone does this by the way, they'll tell you that these are demons, you need to pray them out.
True.
Mshikilie,
Which is not. I mean, it's just an action that is happening at that particular time. No good communication with the brain, they will just jerk. So leave them to do the drama. Make sure the head is so well protected. Then do not put anything inside their mouth. And I know this is a narrative that so many. Personally, I also thought, that would be the best way to help.
Did you ever put anything in your sister's mouth though?
Not
no,
really.
Hopefully not.
Not really. Not really. I know there's the fear that they might bite their tongue.
Yes.
Others have even gone ahead and say they will swallow their tongue.
Yeah.
But I've never had somebody with epilepsy getting a seizure.
It's a myth.
And an injury, for the fear of biting themselves, that can be treated. But you can imagine this person is struggling to breathe.
Yes.
And at that particular time, they're even using their mouth as well.
Yeah, and then you put something.
You have people who don't only put in spoons or sticks. They take a piece of cloth and they put inside there. So you're blocking the airway, and this person needs that oxygen.
Yeah.
They might even again choke or go on less oxygen and even pass out.
My goodness, what's the third thing not to do? The
third thing is do not give them any drink, any kind of food when they are having that seizure until they are back into their senses. If it's on the street, just ask them their name. Have they taken medication? People have a tendency of looking into their pockets again. They see some kind of medication they didn't, and it's not recommended. They might have taken their medication. They could just have been triggered by noise, flashy lights or something like that. So
all right, there's something you've told me about called SUDEP, the sudden unexpected death in epilepsy. And there's a listener who's actually shared about someone who went through that. We'll be talking about that in a short while.
Pearl Play with Yvonne Mutui.
Fredrick Beuche with me here in studio, an epilepsy activist, doing a great job right here in Kenya, raising awareness. And by the way, before I forget, I found out that 20 cases in every 1,000 people every day. 77 new cases in every 100,000 people every day. So this is quite a huge number for there to be such apathy as there is here in Kenya. But thank God for people like you who are helping us understand the whole epilepsy issue.
Yeah, sure. And I think the most important thing here is to know this is a condition that can be preventable.
Yes.
Because we have already looked into the risk factors that can put somebody into a risk of getting epilepsy. So it's some of these things are avoidable. You go to the hospital if you are expectant to deliver. When you take that border, make sure you get your helmet.
Yes,
when you're in that matatu, just put on your seatbelt.
Protect your head,
Yes, if you get any kind of infectious disease, make sure it's looked into at the right time. So it's, things that can on a very small percentage, we talk of epilepsy as being hereditary, meaning if it has been there in the family, at some point, somehow one will get, but on a very lower percentage, because it cannot be passed from one person to another.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I've believed for a long time that the huge reason is,
It's not genetic. It's not genetic. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Anyone can get it, because we are all prone to the risk of either getting accidents or injuries of some sort. So we just need to be on the lookout. Yeah.
There's a citizen. There's a listener called Rema, and she said, back in campus, I had a boyfriend who had epilepsy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one night he had an attack in his sleep and passed away. And she says it hurts to date.
Yeah.
You talked about, you called it?
So it's called SUDEP, like it's sudden death, caused by
sudden unexpected death.
Unexpected death, yeah. It is unexpected because you see somebody is just asleep and then they get a seizure and maybe their face is tucked into, the pillow or the mattress. They cannot turn, so they're just there struggling and they cannot breathe in easily and, just like that, they pass out. Or they get a seizure and then they fall into a pool of water and nobody is able to tell. Or you get a seizure and you fall maybe on fire and people are not any closer to help you out.
Yeah.
So epilepsy in itself cannot cause death, but it's the seizures that prone people to dangers that can end up getting even making them lose life.
My goodness.
So people should be on the lookout. If you are a caregiver, you're taking care of a person with epilepsy, first you should be able to know, like, this person should not be let, like, driving or cooking, especially when their seizures are not controlled.
Yes.
Because the other thing we are trying to also encourage is telling people persons with epilepsy can lead a normal life if their seizures are controlled. So they should not be limited. If it's a kid, take them to the school. If it's a youth, take them to the college. When they graduate, let them apply for those jobs. Let them be interviewed, be given equal chances, because they're just competitive just like any other. When it's issues of social issues, marriage, dating, I mean, it should not limit somebody because they...
Yeah, my goodness, because it really does. It's sometimes, like most of the movies we watched growing up, you brought your man home, is a very good man, very hardworking. But then one day you're with your parents and he just collapses and your parents say, no, you're not going home with this man. So it's quite a big deal, especially when it comes to relationships.
And I think people, and that's why awareness is something that we need to do every day. It's a huge gap when it comes to awareness. So very people need to step up and just being selfless about sharing information about what epilepsy is not, and demystifying the myths and misconceptions.
Amazing. Before we've talked about triggers, you were telling me about triggers, and there's a listener called Ken Munyu, and he said, my brother actually had it when he was young, but his was always triggered by the flickering of the TV.
Yes.
And the way the black and white TV used to flicker, that made us never watch TV in his presence.
So there are triggers actually. He's very right. So you can be under control with medication, but there are triggers that can make you get a seizure even if you are controlled. I'll give you a case of my sister. She gets triggered by overexcitement. So there's no way you can surprise her for anything. You buy her something, then you need to introduce it to her slowly so that she doesn't get... I go home sometimes after she's missed me for a while, and then
she sees you. So you have to tell her earlier that you will be coming home.
I have to. But even when I show up, she always gets so excited. So if you have to hug her, you make sure you have to hug her and until that whole thing is done. And then she'll be okay. So flickering lights, yes, that can really cause want to get a seizure.
Flickering lights.
Yes. Because flickering lights, that's more or less the same if you stay watching the TV for a long time. You have programs when they start, they warn you.
Yes,
it has a lot of photo light, so it might be not very good for a person who is sensitive, has a photosensitive epilepsy. Stress, also missing out on meals, not getting enough sleep. Those are just some of the things that any person who has epilepsy and they're under medication, they really need to understand what their triggers is.
Thank you so much, Fredrick.
Pearl Play with Yvonne Mutui.